Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for holding this hearing on this important subject. I applaud you for making this issue the first that we're going to cover in this Congress. I appreciate you doing that. It's an important issue. I'd like to thank the witnesses for being here and each of your devotion of your life to this important issue, and I look forward to hearing from you. I think it's safe to say that everyone in this room wants those in our society who have committed crimes to be rehabilitated back into the community and have live a law-abiding and productive and fulfilling life. The chairman and panel may not know I was formerly the vice president of strategy at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, where we had Right on Crime as a core component of that institution's purpose. I was proud to work with those individuals as we've advanced, policies to change both in Texas and now at the national level. A huge part of reentry success is gaining and maintaining employment. There's dignity in work. Employment is part of the rehabilitative process. Think about the challenges such a person faces as they seek employment, especially those who are recently incarcerated. You need clothes for an interview, proof of identification. You need to find transportation to get to an interview. You need to know what to say when you get to the interview, and eventually you'll be faced with the dreaded question, have you been convicted of a crime? And this is the issue we are examining today, and it is a tough issue. And again, I applaud this committee for putting this issue front and center. I do have some concerns that I think we should address and look forward to hearing about today. The Chairman mentioned some of those concerns earlier, Chairman Cummings, about some of the issues that have been raised in the past. And one of those is pointing to the question of hiring of people with convictions, and this policy may not actually advance the cause that I think is being purported to advance, and that's something we'll address today. And why do I say that? Because there's some evidence that suggests that this bill may run afoul of the goal based on some of the studies in the history that people have looked at. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record written testimony provided for this hearing by Texas A&M Professor of Economics Jennifer Doleac.
Without objection.
Now, I say as a University of Texas School of Law graduate, I say that with some hesitation, right? This is an Aggies report, and I say that as I'm married to an Aggie, so I'm going to get in trouble back home. But this is an important study. It is an important review of the record, and I think it was done from an objective, non-biased view by this professor, and I think it's important for the discussion in the record. Professor Doleac's testimony reviews the empirical evidence on policies that prohibit employers from asking job applicants about their criminal records, and that evidence shows that these policies may not actually increase employment for people with records, and in fact, the evidence suggests they may actually reduce employment opportunities. Additionally, it may reduce minority hiring overall and disproportionately hurting young African-American men who have no criminal record. I would also ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a May 15, 2018 letter from then Chairman Gowdy to the Government Accountability Office. This letter reads in part, and I quote, "Given the goal of improving employment outcomes for those with criminal records, we would like GAO to examine whether the federal Ban the Box initiative is achieving its intended purpose and determine whether there have been any observable changes in the hiring of individuals with criminal histories attributable to this initiative," end quote. So without objection, I'd like to put that in the record.
Without objection.
And Ranking Member Jordan recently requested that GAO continue to pursue this effort. I think we should analyze the current federal policy, determine if it's effective, and then legislate to appropriate based on evidence. The only last thing I'd point is that there's a couple of questions that I do think it's important for us to look at. Why should an employer spend time and resources interviewing individuals who should not be hired if you know that? And if you had that information, you might know it from the get-go. I just think that's an important thing to review. One might hypothetically ask, if I'm particularly charged with hiring somebody to be in charge of tax collections and enforcement at the IRS, would I really want to hire Michael Cohen, for example, based on his recent running afoul of the IRS? I think that'd be a reasonable question to ask if you knew that right out of the gate. And then are there other methods to consider regarding statute of limitations? Are there ways to deal with this in a slightly different way, or sort of a partial ban the box and looking at that? I look forward to hearing information on those. These are challenging issues, and I thank the chairman for having the hearing. I thank the witnesses for being here, and I look forward to learning more about how to help more people with criminal records find work, success, and lead crime-free lives. And I yield back to the chairman.
Okay. I now recognize the ranking member of the Government Operations Subcommittee, Mr. Meadows of North Carolina, for 5 minutes for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, are you ready?
I yield to the chairman of the Government Operations.
You know what?
We recognize Mr. Conley of Virginia for 5 minutes. I was just giving you
For a second there,
to catch your
I
breath.
forgot we're called chairman now. He said ranking member, I just automatically, sorry.
All right, we'll let Mr. Meadows go. We'll give Mr. Connolly a minute.
I'll be very,
catch his
very,
breath, yeah.
very brief. I want to thank the chairman and the ranking member of the Civil Rights Subcommittee, obviously my good friend, Mr. Conley, the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Cummings, who articulated exactly why this is such a critical issue. I'm probably one of the few members of Congress in the private sector that has actually hired those that have been convicted and sent to incarcerated, and actually hired them to work for me in the private sector. And it has been a very rewarding and truthfully some of the best employees that I've had. I must admit that when I did it, it was with great fear and concern, not necessarily for myself personally, but from the attorneys that actually represented my corporation that said, are you crazy? You know, what are you doing? The liability, the potential liability. And so I think that this is a good second step. It shouldn't be the final step. We should answer some of the difficult questions that we have, and I look forward to working in a bipartisan way. Look forward to hearing from both of you. And with that, I yield back.